In a world of iconic riffs, immortal solos, the highest notes, and the most guttural growls, the debate of the greats has raged on for decades. And we settle them here. This is the Great Metal Standoff. Thank you very much, voiceover guy. Ladies and gentlemen of the rock and roll, punk, prog, hardcore, thrash, and heavy metal community, my name is Jason Evans, and this is the Great Metal Standoff, the podcast that pits music's greatest albums in track-by-track combat. Alright, so on the last episode of the Great Metal Standoff, I had a bit of a curiosity dive. I got very interested into diving deep into some famous pop-punk albums. On the last episode, we went through Green Day's American Idiot and My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade, a pop-punk album, pop-punk battle, on a show with the word metal in the title. I can see why that would be a confusing venture on this show. So this time, I'll be climbing back up the metal scale and taking a pit stop at the Hard Rock petrol station. Therefore, the battle in question on this episode of the Great Metal Standoff will be pitting AC/DC's Back in Black up against Motorhead's Ace of Spades, two pivotal albums that, for one, re-established them as guardians of the rock and roll gate, and for the other, launched them to the next level in the scene, whilst both simultaneously playing a vital part influencing many of the metal bands that we know and love today. My guest this episode is a former Mosh Pit EP, or executive producer if you want the longer version, current EP of Sin's gaming program Player One, and host of a Sin podcast called Rock Capital on both iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. His name is Stefan Bradley, and he is a man of many trades, so he could be quite possibly a wealth of knowledge for us to learn off. I'm very excited, even though he does believe, going into this podcast, that he might not be as much of a wealth of knowledge as he normally would, considering these two, but I bet you he's got some good insight for you. Alright, before we cut to Stefan, let me just give you the quick rules, just in case this is your first time tuning into the Great Metal Standoff. The rules go as follows. Number 1, each battle goes through track by track, and number 2, if in the event of one album containing more tracks than the other, which does come into effect on this podcast, there is a 10-track versus 12-track battle, points can be awarded to an uncontested track by awarding the song a gold star. And if we want to not award it a point, you just give it a grey star. We go track by track, award each song, whichever song we prefer the most will receive a point, and the album with the most accumulative scores by each panelist at the end of the battle will be declared the winner. Alright, let's go straight into it with Stefan Bradley and myself talking about AC/DC's Back in Black and Motorhead's Ace of Spades. The discussion is ready. Time to roll the audio. Okay, we are now deep in the bowels of the battle zone, waiting to go through the curtain into the arena to assess Back in Black and Ace of Spades. And joining me is a former EP here at Mosh Pit on Sin, current executive producer of Sin's gaming program Player One, and a host of a podcast called Rock Capital. His name is Stefan Bradley. How you doing, mate?
Jason, I am fantastic, feeling excellent, feeling great, feeling like I haven't listened to a lot of rock and roll lately, so I'm very keen to destroy my love for rock by not being able to decide between these two releases.
Same. Do you know what? Similar to me, because the last time I'm doing this show's called the Great Metal Standoff, and the last episode I did was about pop punk.
Yeah, and I saw that episode, and those two classic albums there. Although, actually, to be fair, so we're doing Back in Black and Ace of Spades. I actually don't know Ace of Spades too well. I've been listening to it a little bit. I do know Back in Black very well because I'm Australian. And
we should probably, just in case there's ever an international person, you never know what happens on the internet, so there could be an international person there. We're Australian. AC/DC is kind of in our veins from birth.
Exactly. And the biggest AC/DC song worldwide is probably Highway to Hell, but in Australia it's a long way to the top.
You'd say, yes, you are right, with probably a long way to the top. Really? Highway to Hell? You would say that's
probably the biggest international AC/DC song. Everybody knows that one. That and I guess Thunderstruck and Back in Black. If you listen to Triple M in Melbourne, you'll hear Back in Black about 10 times a day.
And You Shook Me All Night Long.
Yeah, but you don't really hear Shook Me All Night Long at Triple M, but you definitely
Maybe
hear
on Gold.
you
Gold
definitely
104.
Yeah, definitely, but you definitely hear Back in Black all day, every day.
Which is very handy because Back in Black is the best-selling album of AC/DC, and it is in the battlefield today, up against Motorhead's Ace of Spades. Both of these albums were released in 1980. Back in Black was released in the July of that year, while Ace of Spades came out in November. Now, Back in Black, that was the first album preceding Bon Scott's death earlier that year in February. Yeah, so there's a bit of defiance about it.
They announced that, I think about one band I'm thinking of, just a modern example, is one of my other favourite bands, which is Linkin Park. Chester Bennington's died, and it's been nearly 2 years now, and I haven't even really thought about replacing or going on without him. And, same other bands like, Led Zeppelin, they quit after their drummer died, and you can think of all these other bands that quit after one of their members passed away. But we know that the Young Brothers, after Bon Scott's funeral, they were like, we want to keep going. And Bon Scott's family was keen for them to continue. And about 6 weeks later, they'd already announced their new singer, who was Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
And Bon Scott apparently really liked his Brian Johnson as a performer. So and apparently some of his Bon Scott's work is on Back in Black, like maybe some of his lyrics or some of his music. It's not really clear.
I think it has been unclear that a lot of Bon Scott's lyrics, it is disputed whether they're on. I think AC/DC have claimed that they're not, that none of them were used for this album.
I see.
It's all original. In the meantime, over in England land, Motorhead were launching out with probably one of their most successful albums that they ever had in their career, Ace of Spades. People know that song and may not know of Motorhead. And I just thought that'd be nice to chuck along into this battle. Furthermore, so you don't know too much about Ace of Spades, but obviously you know about the title track, right?
Yeah, of course. It's a defining Motorhead anthem. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people who may not know Motorhead very well know this song. And there's other great classics on this album as well. Like Jailbait and The Chase is better than the Catch. I said than the Cash, but
The Cash, yeah.
Cash is pretty cool.
Cash is nice. And
this album did influence thrash metal, as proto-thrash as they call it. And, it's definitely a great, you do feel like, because thrash metal to me is a mixture of punk and metal, and you definitely hear that. I definitely feel like you hear that in this album as a mixture of hard rock as well.
Interesting. I must say, Motorhead, they've always identified themselves as rock and roll.
Just like AC/DC, actually.
Yes, but funny enough, Motorhead have been considered as part of that new wave of British heavy metal at the time. Why do you reckon that...
Nawabum.
Nawabum.
Yeah.
Why do you reckon that is?
Well, firstly, they're British, and
of course,
there was a massive wave of them. So it was a bit of... It seems like a loose term that's applied loosely to a bunch of bands. Like, early Def Leppard is considered Nawabum. Uh-huh. And I guess, like, their first few albums were kind of on the heavy metal side. And, you had Girl School as well, who perform on one of the bonus tracks on this album. Are you aware of that one, Jason?
Which one?
Please Don't Touch.
Please Don't Touch. Okay, no. Well, luckily in this battle, we were not going to go too much into the reissues and the bonus tracks. We're just going to stick to the original 12.
That's good because when I went on Spotify, there's like 3 different versions of this album.
Yeah.
And even the normal version has the bonus tracks, so that can get a bit confusing. I didn't want the deluxe edition because I don't need alternative versions of these songs.
No.
And I don't need the extended edition, which has like another whole album of this stuff. So, it's just the album on its own. It's fine.
Excellent. So we're about moments away to kicking into it. Coming into this podcast, Stefan, which one did you think you'd see walking out as the winner?
Well, I mean, the moment you asked me, to me, it has to be Back in Black.
Okay.
Because I will say, since I don't know a lot about Motorhead and I'm a massive AC/DC fan, I guess I am biased towards the AC/DC album. But, it's one of the best-selling albums ever. And Back in Black, and Shook Me All Night Long, and Hell's Bells, and even even so Shoot to Thrill, which was in Iron Man 2, and you had Rock and Roll Noise Pollution, which was a really big song as well. All these songs are just iconic songs, rock songs on their own.
Excellent. I love the detail you're putting into it, even before everything has begun. That's fantastic. So let's go deep down, have a little bit of analysis, chat about what makes these classic songs as great as they are, and why they hold the legacy they do today. So, Stefan, can you see in the corner of our studio right here that timekeeper over there?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Timekeeper, I think we're ready. Can you please ring the bell? Thank you very much. Okay, here we go. The battle is on. First up first. Track 1, Hell's Bells versus Ace of Spades.
That is a toughie.
It is a toughie right out of the gate. However, I know for a fact I'd definitely say Ace of Spades in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, Hell's Bells is what an opener, I think, to remember Bon Scott. Hell's Bells and the title track were specifically written to remember him, to remember Bon Scott.
Yeah.
And
remembering and celebrating his life.
Yes, and Hell's Bells opens with such a killer riff as well. It's a slow riff. None of their other songs sound like it. It sounds like a bit of a journey, bit of a story. And I almost feel like I could probably listen to this in a church.
Well, funny you say that. They tried using a real bell from a real church to get that effect onto the album. They tried. However, with one of the church bells that they used, it was a problematic process because there were birds that were nesting inside that bell, and every time they rang it, they would fly out of the bell and then just fly back in once it died down.
Wow. I did not know that.
Well, there you go.
That's incredible.
You're here to learn. I'm here to learn. We're all here to learn.
I am, thinking that I'm itching towards Ace of Spades, though, even though I would probably say I would enjoy Hell's Bells more, but Ace of Spades is such... it's obvious. It's the signature song for Motorhead.
It's their signature song, yes. Plus, the frenetic, infectious energy I described it as,
and the bass.
Yes.
Lemmy is not just the singer with the low voice. He's also
low raspy voice.
The low raspy voice. He's also got the low notes on the bass. And Ace of Spades, if you listen to the alternative version as well, they don't really emphasize the bass nearly as much as they do in this song. And it's iconic, the Ace of Spades. The Ace of Spades bass, I mean. So I would say we'll give it to Ace of Spades.
And don't forget the Joker. That was a lyric. It didn't go down very well. Excellent. So it's 1-0 both sides for Ace of Spades. How fantastic is that? It's 1-0. Does that surprise you?
No.
All right. Maybe this could surprise you. Shoot to Thrill versus Love Me Like a Reptile.
This is another tough one because I Love Me Like a Reptile is one of my favorite riffs on this record.
Really?
Yes, and Shoot to Thrill, it's a catchy riff. And Shoot to Thrill is another one of the better songs on Back in Black. And, they brought it back after it was in Iron Man 2, they brought it back for their set when they played the song live. So, you didn't see AC/DC on their most recent 2 tours?
There was the Rock and Bust, correct?
Rock or Bust and Black Ice before that.
I haven't been to any of those. I didn't realise that, so that died off the set list after a number of years and then they brought it back due to Iron Man, did they?
I'm almost certain that's the case because they brought it back in the middle of the Black Ice tour. It was the single for... used in Iron Man 2. And then, I guess, it's a killer song.
It is.
And I'm glad it got more recognition. And I'm glad they brought it back because it's a killer song live. Even though, when I was watching, you can kind of tell it's a bit of a hard song for Brian Johnson to sing. It's a bit tough, but...
High notes for days.
But, he gave it a go. So, I'm personally going to say Shoot to Thrill.
I was going to do the same thing, basically, because... It's probably my favourite AC/DC song that Brian Johnson sings.
Oh, really?
It's actually probably one of my favourite Brian Johnson songs, and it's probably in my top 5. It's the tension and the release all across the song. It builds and builds and builds, and it makes a massive crescendo, and you can't not bop along.
What's great about Back in Black is, it has songs with different structures, I think. So, Hell's Bells and Shoot to Thrill, they're long 5-minute songs.
Yes.
And, the other songs, I guess, are more normal length. But most of their later albums, you have the occasional rarity like Thunderstruck.
Yep.
Or, Well, it's really just Thunderstruck and, a few songs off
There are a few
Ball
songs
Breaker. Ball Breaker has quite a few long songs. But other than that, the only most of their songs were, the typical 3 to 4 minutes long. Their last two albums especially was just mostly 3 to 4 minute songs.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but, I like a bit of variety, and that's why I think Highway to Hell and Back in Black were so good, is because they had, they were dynamic and had a bit of variety.
They can keep it short and they can keep it long, and
exactly.
They have room to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I'm going Shoot to Thrill is that the tension, the release, and it can bring you down and build you back up within a moment's notice, especially that bridge of the...
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I love this song.
As you can tell, I think both of us are in agreement that it's Shoot to Thrill.
Awesome.
Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And then, which nicely transitions us into Shoot You in the Back.
Yes.
Shoot You in the Thrill.
You do for money,
Shoot
honey.
You in the Back. I would say What You Do for Money, Honey, to me is not my favorite on the album.
Is Shoot You in the Back, isn't that a live recording? It sounded like a live recording from listening. Just because I think it was mixed a little bit rougher, and you can hear a crowd at the end. You can hear an audience clapping along.
I'm not sure, actually. I didn't notice that. Because it's not a live album.
It's not a live album. That's why I thought, is this a bit of a...
Maybe it's just the way it feels. Maybe they recorded it kind of live, but I don't know.
Possibly.
But I don't know. I think maybe I'll just... What You Do for Money, Honey is one of my favorites. So personally, I just would rather probably just go for Shoot You in the Back because it's a shorter song.
Right.
That's what I'll go for. What would you go for?
I would actually differ with you and take What Do You Do for Money, Honey, because of the catchy chorus, the high vocals of Brian Johnson, and once again, just nice catchy riff, because that's what AC/DC are. This is one of my concerns about going into this podcast, considering the common joke of Angus Young saying we've written how many albums and they all sound the same. That was my big concern. Like, we're going to be repeating ourselves, but in the same way, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm going to take What Do You Do for Money, Honey.
Well, I think Motorhead's been doing... Well, Lemmy did pretty much just mostly the same sounding albums as well. I don't know how different... I have not heard all 22 Motorhead studio albums. But I'm assuming most of them sound similar.
All right.
But I might be wrong.
Yeah. Excellent. So, currently, the score stands, Stefan. You have got Ace of Spades up 2-1, where the scores are reversed on my end. AC/DC 2-1. We're currently in a draw scenario right now.
Here we go.
Let's see if we can break this deadlock as the battle goes on. Give the Dog a Bone versus Live to Win.
I would probably go for Live to Win because Giving the Dog a Bone is probably my personal least favorite on the album. It's a good song because every song on Back in Black is great. But, if you had to ask me, what would if I had to rank the Back in Black songs, I would probably put Giving the Dog a Bone at the bottom.
Give the Dog a Bone. Part of me kind of think it was a bit... I can't remember if it was this... Because I've listened to this album on repeat and it all blurred into one at some point. But there's a lot of grit to this. Both of these songs here had a lot of grittiness that I really enjoyed to it.
There is it's a bit of a... Also, though, Giving the Dog a Bone is a bit of like a cringy sexual innuendo, which is one of those things where, sometimes I listen to it and I just laugh of how, juvenile it is. And then the day after, I'm just like, yeah, this is kind of cringe. And I actually brought it back on the recent tour, on the Rock or Bust tour. I'm pretty sure they brought it back. Did they, or did they bring back Have a Drink on Me, or maybe both? But yeah, I was surprised that they brought those two songs back. But it's that. I think I would say Live to Win.
Live to Win. When I think of Live to Win, I looked like it was I kind of envisioned, because a lot of times when I envision scenarios when I listen to music, so when I was listening to Live to Win, part of me was thinking, there's a motorcycle cowboy convoy coming into town as it came along. Listening to you discuss both songs is actually... I was originally going to go Give the Dog a Bone, but I'm starting to now have my doubts. Now I'm put on the spot and I'm trying to work out a winner. So you all have gone Live to Win. That's put you to 3-1 in the favour of Ace of Spades. Do you know what? Just because of I can paint a visual picture with Live to Win, I think I will switch my original pick to Live to Win, and that will tie my scores up to 2-2.
Well, there you go.
Well done, Stefan. You're very good at debating. That's why you're Sin's MVP.
I am, absolutely.
You genuinely are. You do a lot of things and you do great work here at Sin, so keep it up. Next up, Let Me Put My Love Into You versus Fast and Loose. Both are extremely horny.
Yeah.
Both songs are exceptionally horny.
They really complement each other, don't they?
They're very complimentary if you're in a bedroom.
Yeah, when we put it that way, it was like, yeah, these are actually two great choices to compare. But to me, I'm actually a big fan of I can't even say it now. Let me put my love into you,
because I'm not even going to bother trying to hit those high notes on air.
I don't know if they really performed that song live very often. I don't think they did, but to me, it's an underrated song off the album.
I'd agree.
I would, and I really like the solo too. I think it's kind of cheeky, is how I would describe it. And I think this would probably be like a good stripper song as well.
Yeah, well, I mean,
especially the solo as well.
There.
Yeah, so I would...
Whereas Fast and Loose is probably a bit more motel style.
Yeah.
Cheap motel style.
So I would definitely go with Let Me Put My Love Into You.
I'm with you too.
Yeah.
It also has I think it does also have a different instrumentation with that...
Yes. I love that bit. When I hear that, I instantly know what song it is,
Yeah, there is something a bit more unique about that specific song too. However, Fast and Loose, yes, you could probably go to a poorly rated hotel or a cheap motel and enjoy that song all night long. Okay, now this one I've been dreading. Track 6. This one I've been dreading, Stefan. The reason why is because both songs are really good, but it's very tricky to distinguish between the two. Back in Black versus We Are the Road Crew.
Well, it has to be Back in Black for sure for me. No contest. And this is a shame because, I was listening to We Are the Road Crew today and I was really digging it. But, Back in Black, I mean, it's Back in Black.
It's Back in Black.
It's like enough said.
Enough said. Am I graded by it because it's been overplayed? I don't think so. The problem I had with this is that if We Are the Road Crew was up against any other song on this album that wasn't a single, it would have won.
Yes, and that's what makes this a bit,
which I think is a shame. I think that does a disservice because We Are the Road Crew actually is a very enjoyable song. And Lemmy wrote that specifically for the Motorhead Road Crew, who he considered was the best road crew in the world, and it took him 10 minutes to write this song.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, a lot of these songs, it takes them, can take them a really short amount of time. And I know that with Back in Black, the Young Brothers said to Brian Johnson, don't make it morbid, make the song a celebration.
It's a celebration, yeah. And there's defiance about it.
Yeah, and he was, if the lyrics are a little bit, you think about it, the lyrics are kind of, they're really odd. Like, you got 9 lives, cat's eyes.
Losing every one of them and running wild.
But that's like a sick line as well.
Yeah.
You think about it, it's like, that's a strange line, but it's also a sick line. I can't believe he came up with that. Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of personified Bon in a way. He just used all of his 9 lives up and just ran wild all the way. He was a rocker through and through. Yeah,
there's definitely a party atmosphere with his vocals, especially on the next song on this album.
Yeah.
And his vocals are obviously very high. I read today actually, so Angus Young said that this is one of his favorite songs to play live. And for obvious reasons, you only have to play a few notes. People know it's Back in Black.
Yeah.
And apparently, according to him, he thinks it might be Brian Johnson's least favorite because the notes are really high.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
But I truly do not want to give the road crew a disservice because once again, I got a visual picture coming through the song. Like hell, I've got my notes written right here. A nice picture painting of a travelling road crew. Lemmy does make it sound like a road crew guy is losing his mind and going delirious from constant travel. That's just the picture I painted for myself by listening to this song, which is probably a way how I listen to music.
He's a very honest rock. He was a very honest rock star.
Yeah.
He just wrote what he knew, wrote what he enjoyed.
Yeah, wrote what was best suited to him. Which, like I said, if Road Crew went up against any other Back in Black song that isn't a single, it would have won, hands down, no contest. But it's up against probably, as we were discussing at the top of the show, probably one of the most arguably most recognised and famous AC/DC songs ever.
Songs ever, yeah.
Yeah, or songs ever in general, which is a shame. That does disappoint me that it had to go up against that, but well, that's how the cookie crumbles, and that's how the Great Metal Standoff works. On to the next one, You Shook Me All Night Long versus Fire. I think that's a no contest.
Yeah, I agree. Shook Me All Night Long, obviously. And Brian Johnson wrote this song as well really, really quickly. He just sat in the room and he says that he felt like something just happened, like almost like a spiritual thing, which made him write the song really quickly.
Yeah.
And because I think he started with the title. That's all he had. So he just worked with the title. But yes, I mean, this is one of their signature songs as well. Shook Me All Night Long. It's another great party anthem as well.
Yeah. Do you reckon that's what makes it as enjoyable as it is, because it's a party anthem?
Yeah, and you have to have it on at your parties, even though it's full of your top 40 annoying pop tunes. You got to have it on there.
I must admit, I did write in my notes, because I take notes as I'm listening to the album for these podcasts. I technically did write, infectious chorus, don't lie, you sing along too.
Of course. Absolutely.
Because I just genuinely think, who doesn't sing along to that chorus?
It's a big chorus.
You shook me all night long.
And even the intro as well is recognizable as well.
Yeah. It's in my head right now. All right, yeah, that was a no contest. To be honest, and if I wanted to compare it to Firefly, Firefly is a pretty forgettable one, in my opinion.
Yeah, one of the weaker ones from the album.
I can't really think too much about that one.
Yeah.
Ah, well. Have a Drink on Me versus Jailbait.
I do enjoy Have a Drink on Me, but I think it's one of the lesser songs off Back in Black. Jailbait is one of his cheekiest ones and one of the more famous ones. What do you reckon?
I wanted to like Jailbait because for some reason, because it's an AC/DC Motorhead battle, I was looking at Jailbait. I'm thinking it's going to sound like Jailbreak, isn't it? But I don't think it was. It's all right. Have a Drink on Me is a bit more of a head bopper and more enjoyable in my end, but it is a flip of the coin in my opinion. So you're definitively going Jailbait, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I'll go with Jailbait.
I'm flipping, but I think I just found myself enjoying Have a Drink on Me a bit more. So I'm probably going to take the AC/DC song, which actually that's the 6th win for my end versus 2. It's 6-2 for me. For you, it is 4-all, I believe.
Wow.
So you came in here thinking that AC/DC would wipe the floor due to your bias, but it's actually quite a dead heat at the moment in your end.
Well, we'll see. We still got a few songs left.
We still have a few left, but yeah. Shake a Leg versus Dance.
I love Shake a Leg. I think it's probably, I might have said it before about Let Me Put My Love Into You, but I think Shake a Leg might be even more underrated than that. I think Shake a Leg it's got a catchy riff, and the energy is absolutely crazy. The main riff and the verses, and the chorus as well, and the solo is incredibly crazy.
I was going to say that.
The Shake a Leg solo is like it doesn't make sense. It just keeps on going and going and going and going and you can hear like Angus Young's fingers going super fast, and they only performed that song once.
They've only performed it once.
I think it was in the 80s. And
wow.
I suppose I don't blame him for bringing it back, because I imagine it would be a tough one to do. But I love Shake a Leg. So definitely Shake a Leg, easily.
Do you reckon the intro reminds you of Dirty Deeds?
So many AC/DC songs kind of sound like each other.
Yeah, hence the joke we've made. How many albums and they all sound the same? I can't remember what the actual figure was. It was either 13 or 14 because it was from the 80s or the 90s.
If you just played me, I reckon even AC/DC's Jailbreak and Long Way to the Top, like the main riff kind of sounds similar as well. Yeah.
But yeah, Angus Young does.
You got to give it to Malcolm Young probably wrote most of the riffs. Like he was actually the one who wrote the Back in Black riff, and he wrote the Highway to Hell riff too. So we got to make sure that he's got to be credited for probably most of the riffs.
Young, yes. Yeah. While on the other hand, Dance, it's a bit more upbeat than the rest of the Motorhead catalog in this one.
I don't know.
A bit more upbeat.
I don't really want a dance track. I don't really want a dance track on my Lemmy. I think AC/DC can do a bit of like the dance anthems. I think it kind of works for them because
party.
They're more of a party, and so does Lemmy. Also parties too in a different kind of dark way, in a different kind of not the word cheeky, but his lifestyle. We all know what his lifestyle was like.
He lived 70 years, and I reckon 50 of them were dead on the rock and roll lifestyle that we all have stereotyped for many years.
Exactly, and it's funny because we're comparing these two, and Angus Young was a teetotaler. He didn't drink alcohol at all. He just had tea.
Yeah.
So these guys, they didn't really do interviews much, or they left their private lives private.
They still do.
Yeah, they still do. So for me, it's like, Lemmy is definitely what you see is what you get. He plays the music he wants, and he lives the life you want. Well, he did. And the Young Brothers were just like, we're a rock and roll band, but when we're not, we're just chilling.
They're the chillin' rockers, AC/DC, where Motorhead can slap you in the face. They will slap you in the face with the music that they play, but yet they sounded pretty chirpy on dance. I think for the solo and for the plodding verses and the plodding feeling of the song, I'm going to take Shake a Leg, and you were too?
Absolutely.
Easy done. Now, this is where we're reaching interesting territory because we're approaching the end of Back in Black. This is the final song on that album. However, we have 3 to go on Ace of Spades, so the Gold Star, Grey Star rule will come into play. Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution versus Bite the Bullet. Now, Bite the Bullet, that's about 90 seconds long, I must say.
90 seconds?
It's about 90 seconds long, Bite the Bullet.
Okay. For me, it's obviously Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. To me, that's another excellent song of this album. It's very powerful.
Yeah, and once again, we talk about the defiance of this album. This is a defiance for rock. This is defiance for rock and roll.
Exactly. This is rock and roll. Truly is not noise pollution, unless it's after 11 o'clock at night and I'm breaking your noise laws, and then you call the police to my house. Then I guess that you're technically in the clear to call it noise pollution. But other than that, no. Rock and roll is the best that ever was.
Stop asking that if it's dead or not, because it's never going to die. It will go away and become an underground and come out stronger than ever. I think that personifies that song.
Yeah, and it's also just another example of how they repeat their choruses a lot. All the time they're just repeating the chorus, but it just sounds great. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. And it just keeps on going and going.
Rock and roll is just rock and roll.
And the producer, Mutt Lang, I think, is that what his name was? Yeah. He really emphasized the lead vocals, and this is one of those songs where it was really important. So for me, it's Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution easily.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. So that's we have agreed and we have differed. However, we now have 2 uncontested Motorhead songs here. So if you enjoy this song and want to seek it out again, give it a gold star and it gets a point. Otherwise, we're just going to leave it in the dust, which is quite fitting considering this song is called "The Chase is Better Than the Catch." I reckon that is quite a accurate way of describing human motives, to be perfectly honest. The chase is better than the catch.
Yeah, it's alright, this song. I like it.
You like it?
I prefer the song afterwards. The Hammer.
The Hammer, really?
I think The Hammer is one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, so we need a song to end the album, we just have to go absolutely crazy. That's what The Hammer was to me. It's just a song that just goes nuts. And I think it works really well as a song to finish off.
Okay. The Hammer, to me, it was a bit more like ending just like how we began.
Yeah. So are you comparing it favourably to Ace of Spades?
To an extent. I did enjoy the Chase is Better Than Catch, and I'd give it the gold star points. That's good for me. I'm fine giving it that. Chase is Better Than Catch. Hammer, I don't know. It's ending how we began. It's got the fast, infectious energy. Why did I say enemy? Energy. But if I want that, I can just listen to Ace of Spades, the title track, can't I?
That's
true.
That's
probably why I'm going to go the grey star. But are you gonna? What would you give the Hammer?
I guess I would give Hammer the gold, and I would say the chase is better than the catch. Just a grey.
Leave it into the grey.
Yeah.
All right. So we've just.
It's a good song. It's It's better than average, I think. But I don't think I like it as much as the other ones.
Okay, so we have reached the end of the battle, Stefan. I can now reveal to you that you have completely deadlocked this battle with 5 apiece. Now, you walked in here with a bias to Back in Black. However, you've tied the albums 5-5. How does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, if I had to choose, I'm still going to go with Back in Black all the way.
Really?
But I did warm up to Ace of Spades.
Yeah.
Over the last few days, but still going to be Back in Black for sure. And I think I'll still be listening to Back in Black years later, and because I hadn't listened to Back in Black for a while before this, and then when I listened to it, it still gets me. It still gets me going.
Well, I think that's worked out for me because on my end of this battle, I came to the decision that Back in Black completely obliterated Ace of Spades 8-3. Now, because you've deadlocked, I think it's just better to award each album half a point, and with the outright victory on me, that leads an overall result of 1.5 versus a half in favour of Back in Black. So therefore, your winner of this battle is Back in Black by AC/DC. Well done,
Woo!
AC/DC. That's a feather in the cap for them. This lowly podcast on Sin Media.
That was a good metal standoff, and that one was close. But these are great albums.
I don't want to give Ace of Spades too much of a disservice because that is a genuinely enjoyable album. And I do have a whale of a time listening to it. And if some songs were placed in different places, if songs were placed differently, they might have been awarded additional points. But a lot of the really good stuff was against some of Back in Black's juggernaut songs that have launched them into the stratosphere and beyond. Yeah,
absolutely. You can't do much bigger than Back in Black. Can't really do much bigger than AC/DC in general.
They are the guardians of the gate.
Exactly. No, absolutely. They're, Bon Scott is in hell, guarding that gate. Him and Malcolm together.
What, are they the guardians of the gate for, like, the Satan's
the highway to hell?
Men? Or I should say left-hand men, because left-handed people are associated with the devil, so maybe they sit at the devil's left hand at the gates of hell.
They absolutely do.
And the best thing is that they're all Australian. It's Australian-made.
Well, Bon Scott was
they were technically born in England and Scotland, but they were bred in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I feel like by association, us Australians always vote Australian, and they come out on top in the end. Stefan, thank you very much for taking part in this battle. It was quite enjoyable. I'm glad you did come along, even with your doubts.
No, I'm glad I came, and I had a great time, especially revisiting Back in Black, because it has been a while, and I hadn't really, as I said, given Ace of Spades a fair shake. So I'm glad that this gave me an opportunity to give it a bit of a listen, and and I'll there's still like 20 more albums of Motorhead I can listen to. Yeah. So I guess I better get started.
Yeah, better get started. You're going to walk away here with a newfound respect for Motorhead.
Absolutely.
So it's not all a loss for you Motorhead fans. You've gained a new fan in Stefan Bradley, Sin Media's MVP. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Big thanks again to Stefan Bradley for taking part in this AC/DC v Motorhead battle here on the Great Metal Standoff. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Stefan came into this podcast believing that he would hold some bias to AC/DC, and as you can tell by the end of it, he's walked away with a dead heat. A draw. That is something I really didn't expect here on the Great Metal Standoff. So therefore, it proves that you never know how much you may enjoy the other side of the battle. But because of this result, I have made an executive decision as producer of this show and main presenter and the anchor of this show that I'm going to add an extra rule to these Great Metal Standoff battles. The new rule stands as follows. If a panelist's total tally results in a draw, half a point will be awarded to both albums' overall score. This will justify the half point that I gave both albums at the end of this battle, and that is the rule we're going to go with from this point forward. All in all, your winner of the battle, by quite a comprehensive margin on my end, but via dead heat technicalities on Stefan's end, AC/DC, Back in Black. However, I will state, regardless of the result, I would still highly recommend Ace of Spades. There are some really good tracks on that album. Truly, do give it a try. I'm looking at this list right now. We Are the Road Crew, The chase is better than the catch. Live to win. Love me like a reptile. There are some of them that I may not have scored a point to, but that's literally because they went up against ACD songs that I just happen to love a whole lot more. But trust me, if they weren't contested against the massive AC/DC singles, they would have scored points hands down. It would not have been a contest. I would probably prefer them a lot more to some of the filler tracks, but that's how the cookie crumbles, and that's how it ends up. So your winner, AC/DC, back in black. Well, that's about all from me over at the Great Metal Standoff, episode about to come to an end. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for being interested in this battle. Be sure to check Stefan's lovely producing skills over at Sin's gaming program Player 1, Monday nights at 8 PM on Sin 90.7 digital radio, or you can stream it at our website, sin.org.au. And also, be sure to check out Stefan's other rock and roll podcast, Rock Capital. It is available on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. You could get it anywhere you like. Also, be sure to drop him a like at facebook.com/Rock Capital, facebook.com/Rock Capital Pod, and you can follow him on Twitter at Rock Capital Pod. Also, be sure to give this show a like. The Great Metal Standoff. Yours truly, Jason Evans, Great Metal Standoff. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. Let me know what you would have picked, what winner you would have picked in this battle. Would you have gone Motorhead instead of AC/DC? Be sure to let me know. Perhaps you have a suggestion with a battle that we can do next here on the Great Metal Standoff. I'm very open to suggestions, don't you worry. Also, if you are a local artist that is very interested in having a chat, be sure to give us a contact, facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. Alright, that's all from me. Over and out. Metal up your ass!